So someone reached out to me and he was like, why are you so fixated on Burkina Faso and the Sahel region, Joe? Why don't you just talk about Nigeria? So much is going on in Nigeria. And I was like, what am I going to talk about Nigeria? Nobody wants to identify with failures. Nigeria is a gigantic failure, massive failure, not to the West African region, but to the entire black race. Nigeria is the giant that would have been that never was. Nigeria is a prayer point to all of us Africans today who wish the best for motherland. I don't like dwelling on Nigeria because it breaks my heart and draws tears from my eyes. I would rather focus on the guys who have given me a sense of value and belonging as an African, and that is Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic.
Hello everyone and welcome back. So in this video, Joseph Okechukwu talks about Nigeria as well as Africa, especially what is happening in Burkina Faso and also Abrahim Traore. So recently, he had been talking about Africa, right? So people are kind of complaining that why is he not talking about Nigeria, especially what is happening in Nigeria under this Tinubu government? Like who wants to identify herself or himself with failure? Nigeria is a failed country. Nigeria has disappointed other African countries because for a very long time, other countries in Africa have been waiting for Nigeria to rise up and say enough is enough, because people believe that if Nigeria gets better, other African countries will definitely get better as well. But right now, as we can see, they are no longer waiting for Nigeria to rise up. Look at what is happening in Burkina Faso as well as other African countries. They have realized that it is time to rise up and claim what belongs to them. It is very, very sad and disheartening that the so-called giant of Africa is lacking behind. Like, I believe that very soon Nigerians will wake up and say enough is enough. Take a listen and see what Joseph Okechukwu have to say concerning this matter. And also, please do well to subscribe if today is your first time here. Share the video, give it a like. Thank you so much for watching.
Someone reached out to me and he was like, why are you so fixated on Burkina Faso and the Sahel region, Joe? Why don't you just talk about Nigeria? So much is going on in Nigeria. And I was like, what am I going to talk about Nigeria? Nobody wants to identify with failures. Nigeria is a gigantic failure, massive failure, not to the West African region, but to the entire black race. Nigeria is the giant that would have been that never was. Nigeria is a prayer point to all of us Africans today who wish the best for motherland. I don't like dwelling on Nigeria because it breaks my heart and draws tears from my eyes. I would rather focus on the guys who have given me a sense of value and belonging as an African, and that is Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic. So that's why I focus on those people. That's why I'm very emotionally involved in what is going on there. If you don't believe what I tell you about Nigeria's shameful position in Africa today, I'm going to give you just the tip of the iceberg, just the tip. You see, President Donald J. Trump just came from visiting Qatar. Trump has a lot of followers in Africa, but I can bet you that Trump is never going to visit Africa. What is he coming to visit Africa for? What do you have for him? They look at Qatar, a nation of less than 3 million people. Just because they have full and absolute control of their natural resources, much of which is natural gas. Qatar did not go to Trump. Trump went to Qatar. And before he went to Qatar, Qatar played like the big boys. Sent him a plane to replace his Air Force One, a much bigger one, a much more expensive one. On top of that, they're pledging to buy about 200 Boeing aircrafts. And by the time Trump was leaving, he said, at the end of the day, the economic exchange between America and Qatar is going to amount to about $1.2 trillion. One tiny little nation in the Gulf region. Qatar has about 843 trillion cubic feet proven natural gas reserve and about 25.2 billion barrels of oil, making them the 13th biggest oil exporter in the world. Nigeria has 37.28 billion barrels of oil. And I can bet my life that the figure I'm giving you now, which is official, is not the real one. There's got to be more, but it is 37.28 billion barrels of oil, making it about the 6th or 5th largest exporter in the world. Nigeria has one state in eastern Nigeria alone, Imo State, out of 36 states, one state that has over 200 trillion cubic feet of gas, proven natural gas reserve. Over 200 trillion cubic feet. Quote me anytime, any day. In Imo State, eastern Nigeria, the same Imo State has over 163 oil wells. In fact, in Imo River Basin, they produce both natural gas and oil. Just one Imo State in Nigeria. But Nigeria is ranked amongst the poorest nation on earth. Nigeria just won a trophy as the nation with the poorest set of children on this earth. And they're not saying in Africa or in West Africa, on earth, in the whole world. Tell me. No, let's face the fact. How on earth should this be? If the figure of over 200 trillion cubic feet of gas in Imo State is just official, imagine what the original figure is. Tell me why anyone. And in Qatar, go and read this up. Qatar, actually what is making them is not even the oil, it is the natural gas they have that they sell the most. That's what gives them almost all the money they have, with which they've turned their country into a living heaven. But here we are. Why? Because we have been told that we can't control what God gave us. It breaks my heart. It's why I don't want to talk about Nigeria. Why I hate, it's a drag for me to talk about Nigeria. You see, today, Becky Anderson was speaking on CNN, and she referred to the nations in the Gulf region as sovereign wealthy or sovereign rich nations. You see, we are rich in Africa, but we are not sovereign. We don't have our sovereignty. We don't have our power. Someone else is in charge of what God has blessed us with. Someone else has control over our own sovereign wealth and our sovereignty as a people. This is why I'm very emotional when I talk about Abraham Traore in Burkina Faso, when I talk about Assimi Goïta in Mali, when I talk about Abdul Rahman Chiani in Niger Republic. This is why. Because for the first time in living memory, we see Africa assuming control over its own destiny. We are not in control of our destiny for the first time. I spoke about this since 2015, 16, 17, 19, and people laughed at me like it was never going to be possible. It's happening in my lifetime. I said it will happen in my lifetime. Why would I leave that and talk about a failure that has continued to sink and sink deeper and deeper and deeper? God bless Abraham Traore and all these revolutionaries out there. And mark my words, I don't know who I am really sometimes, but for some reason when I say something, they just happen. I'm going to say another one. You see what has happened in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali? It's going to touch almost every part of Africa, one way or another. I know the colonials are so scared right now, scared to death. I know they've been throwing up all kinds of fake revolutions for us. You see how they did it in Gabon. All of a sudden, boom! People started rejoicing. And I made a post that said, no. Don't pay attention to that. That's not the real revolution. If you want to see proper revolution, look out for the guys who are kicking out IMF and World Bank. Look out for the guys who are nationalizing their oil and natural resources wealth and using the money from there to take care of their citizens. Look out for the guys who are kicking out boots, foreign boots on ground, Look out for the guys who are telling their lawyers to remove that white hair and put on African attire as a lawyer. Look out for the people who are naturally Pan-Africanists, not people who are faking on behalf of the colonial powers. We know what true revolution feels like. We know what it looks like. We know what it sounds like. You cannot deceive us with fake revolutions across the continent. By just sending French troops out, then you want us to believe that you are a revolutionary. No, you're not. There's a manuscript for colonization. There's also a blueprint and a manuscript for decolonization. And that's what our brothers are using to decolonize the minds of their people in the Sahel region. So when you want to know who is a true revolutionary, check out and look what they're doing. Not people who are still in partnership with the corporations of the colonial masters, through which they control the continent of Africa and make us believe that our problem comes from Africa and not from them. No, they are our problem. Yes, there are collaborators on the continent with them, just as we had during the days of slavery, but they are the principal problem. Remember how they used to tell us that, oh, Africans are the problem of Africa. But today we have Abraham Traore. To prove them wrong, they've tried to kill him so many times. Only God knows how many times they've tried to kill Assimi Goïta. Only God knows how many times they've tried to kill Chani of Niger Republic. These are Africans who want to prove you wrong, that we will not always go along with the dictates of the colonial powers. Why not leave them alone? Let's see if Africans are always going to be foolish. We know what is good for our people. And this revolution that has started in the Sahel will touch every single spot on the continent of Africa, God willing. So this is why I'm emotionally attached to Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger Republic, and the Sahelian brothers who are leading this revolution to set Mother Africa free from the shackles of colonial and neo-colonial enslavement. God bless you guys and have a wonderful week ahead of you. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing great today. Okay, so someone reached out to me and he was like, why are you so fixated on Burkina Faso and the Sahel region, Joe? Why don't you just talk about Nigeria? So much is going on in Nigeria. And I was like, what am I going to talk about Nigeria? Nobody wants to identify with failures. Nigeria is a gigantic failure, massive failure. Not to the West African region, but to the entire black race. Nigeria is the giant that would have been that never was. Nigeria is a prayer point to all of us Africans today who wish the best for motherland. I don't like dwelling on Nigeria because it breaks my heart and draws tears from my eyes. I would rather focus on the guys who have given me a sense of value and belonging as an African, and that is Burkina Faso.
Welcome to